Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoy this video, then give it a like and a share. On Thursday, it came to light that the new Terminator movie may have an official title, revealed by none other than the cast members themselves. Terminator Phoenix. This was the hashtag used in several Instagram posts by the cast on their wrap party. As I have a keen interest in this movie, I reported on this news, like I have done with many other bits and pieces of info that have dropped over the last few months. In that video, I also brought to light that one of the leads in this film, Natalia Reyes, had in fact confirmed that this Terminator film will have a major political element to it. As expected, this didn't go down very well at all, and so I wanted to explore that prospect, but also take a look at the other movies and see if there is a precedent for this. Also, kind of give my own personal views on whether this will be of detriment to the movie or not. But it's important to note here, I'm not actually giving any of my own political views, so let's kind of remove both of those elements and treat them as completely separate entities. So first and foremost, let's take a look at what we know. We know without a shadow of a doubt that the movie will take place along the US-Mexican border. We know that also some of the interior sets have been decorated and painted to resemble immigration camps. Adding all of that to the fact that one of the leads is a prominent Colombian actress, this all points to a story set within that part of the world, which in and unto itself isn't bad at all. However, Mexican-US immigration being a pivotal part of the story? Well, I mean, let's first and foremost analyse, is it part of the story? So let's take a look at what Natalia Reyes has actually said in an interview. She was asked directly by El Pay, "Tell us about your character Natalia Reyes." Natalia stated, "The truth is that no longer talk much about the details of the characters, want to keep the surprise for the public." Obviously this is some dodgy translator, but this is what she said. "What is known is that I am Natalia Reyes. I am a Mexican girl, very young, and I enter this saga of Terminator. That is going to have a lot of Latin flavour. It is going to touch many issues of the border and what is happening in the United States. It is a very current movie." That's important to note. She stated it is a very current movie, but keeping the essence of Terminator and this whole issue of how we are increasingly at the mercy of all technology and machines. So here we have our linchpin. This is our confirmation that Terminator will, without a shadow of a doubt, feature current and very now politics. Now, is this a bad thing? Absolutely. And before you all flip out, let's just explore why this is a bad thing, but also take a look at the rest of the Terminator films to illustrate why this is such an issue and if there is a precedent for this. So, why is it such a bad thing? Politics of any sort that is so current and now in any form of media, any form of stories, does not age well. It does not age very well at all. As the world moves on, as does the political landscape, what was once considered the normal and acceptable can quickly shift to being abhorrent and detestable. So yes, there are some discussions currently with respect to the US-Mexican border, and yes, there are some talk, generally speaking, globally about immigration and the right to freedom of movement. Without going into my own thoughts and feelings on the subject, because that is not relevant in the slightest to this discussion, the current mindset of opposing views is not necessarily the way it will always stay, and as such, having this as part of the main story of the film is a very poor choice. It really will not age well at all. The landscape of the world can change drastically in, say, 10 years, even 5. With new people in power, the world can change, and along with it, a movie can seem incredibly dated, which is something I fear for with respect to this new Terminator film. A lot of the people, when I mentioned the political element in the movie on my previous video, stated that Terminator Judgment Day had parts along the border, and as such, this is a precedent and it'll be fine. So again, let's explore it and how it looked, how it shaped the story and ultimately impacted the movie, just to ensure that there really is or isn't a history of this political agenda pushing in the Terminator franchise. Are there parts of the story that are set in Mexico? Yes. Are there bits and pieces of Sarah Connor's life that were spent in Mexico? Absolutely. In fact, she spent much of her pregnancy in the area and surrounding nations to prepare for the eventual return of the Terminators and also Judgment Day itself. But is there any political influence within that part of the story? No. It is just a setting, it's just a location. We didn't see immigration, we didn't see asylum seekers, and in fact, her being in Mexico made sense because Skynet knew she was initially based in the United States. Post events of Terminator, she moved to Mexico to prepare. She could get access to firearms, locations to train, and of course, she was off the grid. So it all makes sense from a narrative perspective. Narratively, her being in those locations makes perfect sense. So no, there is actually no precedent for heavy political bias in the Terminator franchise. And that's really what this is. Whether you agree or you disagree, it is textbook political bias infused into the narrative of a movie franchise. And this is something that will backfire heavily. And this is me speaking from a purely unbiased point of view without even mentioning my own political opinion. You have a movie that has already got people's backs up due to the fact that there are 3 female leads and seemingly no John Connor. Now, again, these are not my thoughts. I have to reiterate that. My opinion here isn't relevant, but I do see and I read the comments. When the initial teaser image was released showing Linda Hamilton, Mackenzie Davies and Natalia Reyes, without any sign of a man in sight, the comments about feminist propaganda came flooding through. We have seen no sight of John Connor in any of the sets, and yeah, there may be a flashback to a young John, but currently it is looking incredibly likely that he is in fact actually nothing to do with this film at all. And we know that this movie will be a passing of the torch to this younger, newer cast, and as such, a lot of people are now shouting from the rooftops, metaphorically speaking, that all they want to see is the promised future war. Pair all of this together and you have a recipe for disaster. You have a movie with such heavy and transparent agenda bias politically that it will age terribly. It will instantly irritate many with an opposing view, and also the fans of the original film who just want to see the future war and John Connor leading the resistance. Not to mention, you also have all of the people that will outright refuse to watch it simply because they don't want to watch politics in their movies. They go to the theatre to escape the world, not see it play out on the big screen, glorified by actors being paid far too much to play out true events reflecting everyday life, and essentially have that trivialized by that act, which is a true shame. There is no precedent for the heavy political bias, and although Terminator has always featured strong female characters, it's really important to note because it in fact pretty much created that and it pushed it into the mainstream. There is no precedent for such a heavy female presence without any males at all in the Terminator franchise. So that is it. That's my guess. It's a brief rundown of my thoughts on how this political bias was worming its way into our movies will affect the franchise that many people love. It is a true shame that James Cameron of late has systematically infused his political opinion into the movies that he is involved with. You only have to look at Avatar to again see this. I'm aware that movies generally have always been a way to propagate political views, but sometimes it is nice to just watch a movie and escape the world. But I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree? Disagree? What are your thoughts on this political bias in movies nowadays? And do you think that this will backfire on the series? Taking everything into account, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Mr. H. Take care.